G'day, committee members. It seems that the discourse around this particular controls order bill encompasses the whole realm of terrorism, given what I've just heard already and what's been said in the transcript of the first reading. And I note I've pointed out Ms. Garriman's contribution to the first reading debate, where she contextualises this bill on page 6 of my written submission. So she's pointing out that it's the whole global war on terror as the context. You've also identified now that it's the Ides of March massacre in Christchurch. I also note that Andrew Little has indicated that, the Honourable Andrew Little has indicated that there's a larger review of the Terrorism Suppression bill being undertaken within the Justice Ministry, but for whatever reason, they're not ready to go with that yet publicly. And so this controls order bill has been brought out to deal with a specific set of circumstances to do with Turkey breaching the sovereignty of the Syrian state by its incursion, which looks like it was ticked off by our ally, the US. And then Mr. Trump changed his mind on Twitter. But I mean, like if George Bush came here, would the bill apply to him? Yes. He's killed millions of people. Yes. George W. Bush, you know, because like he said that, you know, that like certain people attacked the America on the 11th of September 2001 and then went and slaughtered people in Afghanistan, right? Because he was chasing the perpetrators, but they were all Saudi Arabian. Well, it said so on the passport that they found, you know, amongst all the dust on the street of New York a few days later. They didn't find the black boxes to the planes though, but passports are made out of Kevlar. My suggestion is that we wait and have a look at the full bill before we do anything. It seems to me that someone's attempting to put a Band-Aid on something, because like every time there's a drama we go terrorism, but really what's the war about? The war on terror. The war on terror is about a struggle between large powers for control of a very important area of the world where all the easy to get oil is. It just so happens to be inhabited by people who generally, not always, practice the Muslim faith. And thus it became a crusade. So then we use the word like jihadi. But surely George Bush is like a Christian jihadi. He's killed millions of people. We went along there and did that too, didn't we, Mark?
What's that, Chris?
We went and killed people in Afghanistan, you know, as revenge for what happened in New York that was done by Saudi Arabians.
Well, that's your language that you choose, and it's your submission. So
yeah, I understand.
I don't agree with you at all, but it's your submission.
Well, you would recall when we were dealing with the countering foreign fighter terrorist bill back in 2014. The Honourable Phil Goff was on the committee, you know, like, and we were dealing with another chapter in the war on terror. At that time was Iraq. Now, subsequently, Colin Powell, who presented evidence to the UN, a little vial in January or February, saying, you know, like weapons of mass destruction. He apologised for that later on and said, you know, I don't know how I can live with myself about that. And then in the context of the Countering Terrorist Fighters legislation bill, soon after, in February of 2015, there's an exchange between the Honourable John Key and Andrew Little, right, where he's yelling at Andrew Little, get some guts about sending people back into Iraq. The whole thing's bullshit, right? You're not coming out and telling us what it's really about. It's about large power fighting over, right, who controls the Middle East resources, namely oil, but lots of other things. And like, if we're serious about terror, right, like, we cocked it up. Like we went through this process with the Countering Terrorist Fighters legislation bill that had a limited period, and then that was rolled into, or the relevant bits, into the very carefully considered intelligence and security bill, so that our intelligence services would have all the tools that they needed in order to avoid what happened on the Ides of March. Now, where were they focused? Well, they were just following orders from Washington, like, look at Islamic terrorists, jihadis. In the meantime, our friends in Washington are tweeting about, you know, like, what good guys white guys are that brandish guns, the same ones that you're trying to ban or are banned here. I mean, we can't even look at the evidence of what happened in Christchurch because you banned the video, you banned the manifesto. Like, it's perverse. If you look at the evidence of the video, you will find that that guy was assisted, right? But there's only one person being charged so far that I'm aware of. We're not being honest with the public here. And then you're going to use secret evidence here. It's like in the respect to control orders. These people are just being scapegoated. Like, people cry about fake news all the time, but like, we get told bullshit by government, and we get told bullshit by the propaganda arm, which is the mainstream media. Jane Stanley at the BBC read off a teleprompter at 5 o'clock in the afternoon on the 11th of September and told the world how World Trade Center 7 had come down. In the background, just over her shoulder, while she was reading that off that teleprompter, is the World Trade Center Tower 7 still standing. It came down at 5:20. Okay. Just recently, on the 3rd of September, Leroy Halsey, right, engineering professor at Alaska's Fairbanks University, and his associates published the results of their 4-year study, right, into the World Trade Center 7 collapse. There wasn't enough fire, and every column, all 81 columns in that building, were severed simultaneously to enable what was observed, that thing coming down in a few seconds, including 2.5 seconds of free fall collapse, which means it's the same as this desktop hitting the ground, bang, as fast as a billiard ball will drop because there's no legs holding it up. That wasn't even mentioned in the 9/11 Commission report. I asked our intelligence services why we went to Afghanistan. Did they look at 9/11? They did a Colonel Schultz. We know nothing. I suggest that you put this aside and wait until a full review of the Terrorism Suppression Act comes forward into the public, and we can have a proper discussion about what's going on in a reasonably leisurely and considered way. You guys have, like, you've got whoever it is on your watch list. As soon as they hit the country, right, they'll be whatever level, like, category that you allocate the intelligence and security, you know, they can be watched under the Intelligence and Security Bill. Right. This is about, like, are they going to do something? It's highly unlikely that they're going to do something when they come back to New Zealand. It's white guys with AK-47s that do that.
I think we're almost, well, we've gone over time, but I think, to be honest with you, it's actually quite a, where you've ended, not the AKs per se, but the whole notion that you want us to take more time, well, rather the government. But I think it's a good place for us to end. So thank you for popping on in.
No questions.
Well, we're over time, but if members are really wanted to, I'm happy to. Is there any particular?
I don't think we've got time. Yeah, I need more time.
Greg, thank you for coming in.
I'll never get asked questions, eh? Phil Goff, like, responded to one, and that since then, there's never been a question, eh? It's like,
We've got Bruce King waiting, and I reckon he's going to make some of your points as well.
Righty-o.
Bruce.
Thank you very much
Thank you.
for the time.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Oh, no.